And I believe we are live now.
So, how are you doing? Welcome along to obviously Fight Talk, Real Talk.
No.
Live chat.
I can't.
On 6th of February, we were out of studio this week, so we said we will come on the YouTube and just have a general discussion like we did last time. So that's what we're doing and that's what we're here. So, as Rob headlined it, preview and Edgar versus Ortega headline in UFC 22. This is news coming out. UFC 22 has sort of fallen to pieces, and then it looked like everybody wanted in on this. But the news coming from Ariel Helwani today, tweeting as Ariel does, he's basically said Edgar versus Ortega is all but done. The question now is whether it's the main event or not. If the UFC can't find a title to headline, and thus far no luck, there's a good chance they'll turn the pay-per-view into a fight night and have Edgar Ortega to be a 5-rounder. So that news, Rob, how does that rub you?
I love the fight. I love Edgar versus Ortega. It's funny when we were talking about Ortega kind of at the start of the year after he got that big win against Cub Swanson. You were talking about him potentially being a guy for Holloway soon, and it looks like if this fight is going to happen, he's going to get pushed into that spot even earlier than even I thought, and maybe that even you thought. I love the fight. Is it a main event of a pay-per-view? I wouldn't say that. I'd say definitely not to that one. But it's definitely a great fight. It'd be a great co-main event. So I understand the UFC's predicament. If they can't get some kind of title fight in there, I can understand why they're talking about, as Ariel said, possible cancellation or possible demotion to a fight night or something. But the fight itself, excellent fight. Really, really good fight.
Yeah, and it's something that I was saying when Ortega won last time out. I was saying, look, this guy, realistically, what else is in the division? He had a dominant, it was a super victory and submission over Cub Swanson. It wasn't that long ago. It was back in December, I think. So, this is perfect for the UFC in so many ways. Perfect is probably the wrong. It's the perfect solution to a terrible problem, I suppose, is the better way of putting it. Frankie Edgar has gone from just title fight to now he's looking at probably, in my opinion, the most legit number one contender outside of himself, I suppose, to Max Holloway in that featherweight division. And it's a win-win here for the UFC in some ways, because if Frankie Edgar wins, they're like, yeah, we told you he's the number one guy. He's deserving of this, clearly. But if Ortega wins, all of a sudden they've got this new absolute rock star. He'll be 14-0 coming in against Max Holloway. We all know if he gets, as he shows, if he gets anyone to the mat, or doesn't even need to get them to the mat as he showed, he can tap them out. So yeah, it's a bit of a win-win. It's a silver lining on a very dark cloud. Because let's be honest, UFC 222, if I was in the United States of the Americas, I don't think I'd be putting your hand in my pocket for a pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's maybe something that we were kind of discussing earlier today about possibly talking about it. The cards coming up for the UFC aren't very strong, and it's something that a lot of people have talked about, especially the likes of the Fox cards. People are wondering why on the year that the UFC are renegotiating a TV deal, why are the Fox cards so bad? But I don't think you can really just look at the Fox cards. Even the pay-per-view cards aren't looking that good, and probably it's a string of bad luck. They've lost a lot of big names. There's some injuries. Obviously Max Holloway falling out is a terrible injury. He's one of the most exciting guys on the roster, not just the featherweight division. So they've had some bad luck, but the fights coming up are, for a UFC standard, they're really, really not good. There's some great fights, don't get me wrong. There's some really good fights, and Ortega versus Edgar would be brilliant, but the cards themselves, they're not really what we'd come to expect from a UFC level.
Are they paying the price for stacking cards, heavy stacking cards, like with the 3 title fights and stuff like that? Is this the kick on? Is this the knock-on effect from it?
It could be. It could be. It's a weird one. Like, we all love a stacked card. It's kind of like, for me, it's kind of like the super fight thing, where it happens once or twice and we're like, this is brilliant. But when it happens too much, and the same with stacked cards, when they happen too much and it kind of reduces the quality on the other cards, you kind of start thinking about, like, oh, maybe that's not the best idea promotionally. So, it could be that, but it could also just be bad luck. And just it's a different time in MMA right now. I think just it's a completely different time.
Well, that's, you look at it, obviously, can we ever have a podcast without saying, but Conor isn't around, you know what I mean? You've Ronda gone. Your GSP came back flooded with it. He was obviously the original pay-per-view king, came back, I think they're lacking somewhat in stars.
Yeah, they're definitely lacking in stars. There's, as you said, Ronda, who's now in the WWE. Conor is he's not really seen around, and we don't know what the status of that is. And then the likes of, as we said, Max Holloway, who could be a star, getting injured. So some bad luck, but yeah, it's the next few weeks and maybe the next 2 or 3 months for the UFC isn't looking great, to be honest.
But in and around this fight in itself, it's obviously only rumour at the moment, so we're just speaking in absolute possibilities, and we're only forecasting the card. Realistically, it's less than a month away. You talk, tie this in a little bit, you talk that Nate Diaz wanted to come back and save the card, and I was going, I don't pay no attention to that. If Nate Diaz comes back, would he have saved the card? Nate Diaz? Eddie Alvarez was the talk, wasn't it?
Yeah, like Nate Diaz, I don't, again, I don't like it for a couple of reasons. One reason is that Nate Diaz coming back should be a big deal. It shouldn't be to plug a hole.
I disagree with this, you see. Why does Nate Diaz coming back? Why is it a big deal?
Why isn't it a big deal?
Well, what's he done?
What do you mean, what's he done?
He's not won a title. He's coming off a defeat. Do you know what I mean? He's wanting this big money fight. Like, you take any fighter. You look at Justin Gaethje, right? Is coming off a defeat and probably fight of the year, right? And a lot of people's eyes it was. Before that, he was coming off fight of the year. He's not going to sit back for over a year and more. Like, when you think about it, everybody talks about how unactive Conor is. Strip him of the belt, do all this, and I don't disagree with strip Conor of the belt, or he has to come back and be active, all that sort of talk. But I don't get the fascination of Nate Diaz. I know he's a bit of I think Nate Diaz is a cult. He's a cult favourite in that way.
He always has been.
Yeah, I know, but it's weird because I like Nate Diaz and I don't want to sound like I'm shitting on him, but I don't understand why the big return of Nate Diaz comes back. If Nate Diaz hadn't fought Conor the 2 times, would there be that much hype around Nate Diaz coming back?
No, there wouldn't. And that's not to say the only reason why Nate Diaz is popular is because of Conor, because Nate Diaz was very popular before that, but that certainly helped. It definitely didn't hurt him. Nate Diaz, those 2 fights with Conor done some huge business, and I think if you look at the numbers that both guys do without each other, aside from the Mayweather one, which is that's just a weird one. That's just not going to happen again, or maybe it will. But that's just a weird one. But aside from that, if you look at the numbers that they've done, they do their best work together. But I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't think the reason why Conor versus Nate does very, very well is just because of Conor. Because...
Well, come here. Like, look at it this way, Rob, right? Nate Diaz, right? If you think about... Before he fought Conor, his last loss in the UFC was a unanimous decision against RDA, right? So I'll name you the fighters, right? RDA, right? He lost to RDA in December of 2014. He came back and beat Michael Johnson in December of 2015. So a year. He then fought Conor McGregor in March of 2016, and then fought Conor McGregor again in August of 2016, and hasn't been seen since. So he's had 4 fights if you include the RDA one, but in 4 years, 4 fights, 3.5, 4 years, 4 fights.
What's your like point in that though?
Because I don't get why he's hyped all that good. Like, RDA absolutely destroyed him. Destroyed him. Yeah, Michael Johnson, he beat Michael Johnson unanimous decision, fair enough. He beat Conor with a choke, fair enough. Great victory by him pulling that out. But like the fifth fight. But what I mean is, it's almost, I'm going to say something here, and you know how highly I think of and it's weird comparing them because obviously Nate's had a much bigger career, but to this point, but it's almost like Darren Till. Darren Till needs to get back in the cage.
He definitely does.
Because I think it was Luke Thomas was saying the steam the boiling steam and the push behind Darren Till, slowly by the day that kettle is simmering and it's not as hot.
Yeah.
And that's in a way what I see with Nate Diaz. That don't get me wrong, and this is what I mean. I don't mean to sound like I'm shitting on Nate Diaz, because I'm not. I'm just saying I don't get why Nate Diaz was saving the card when he hasn't fought since August of 2016.
The reason why I say he'd be saving the card is because relative to what the UFC have right now, he's definitely one of the bigger stars. And you can argue whether that's because there's not that many stars in the UFC right now. You can argue a lot of things, but it's just a matter of fact that he's one of the bigger stars in the UFC right now. More people are interested in seeing Nate Diaz fight than 99% of the roster. So that's the reason why he'd be saving the card. He's one of the bigger stars coming back.
Is that in a sense then, I'm getting deep into this, I wasn't expecting to go this deep. Is that in a sense why the UFC is in trouble? Because Nate Diaz is a star. He's like, if you look at it, let's take Nate and Conor, let's throw the two of them in. So I'm not being called Mr. Biased or something here, right? But you throw the two of them into it. Their two biggest stars haven't fought in a year and a half respectively in mixed martial arts.
Poor.
So surely that's the UFC. Like, you know, they're contracted to the UFC. So why are the two biggest stars on the sidelines? Like, if you put that analogy into any other sport that we follow, be it if you're a football man, soccer for Americans, NFL, NHL, whatever, you don't leave your two VIPs or MVPs sitting on the sidelines.
True, and I think if you want to look at it a different way, I think that you could go both ways. The reason why, or I suppose a reason why maybe they're on the sidelines is because they're the biggest stars in the UFC and they're looking for their worth pretty much. And maybe the UFC just aren't offering what their worth is or what they believe their worth is. We certainly know what Conor McGregor wants. He wants some kind of piece of the company, or at least a piece of the promotion. We know that. That's something that he's already stated. Maybe the UFC haven't come to terms and with that kind of stuff. Maybe Nate Diaz is asking for more money than they think he deserves, and we've heard Dana White talk about that. So that's why they're not in the UFC right now, or they're not fighting. I don't think it's anything else, but it's just they both have different values on themselves than the UFC have on them, maybe.
Okay, yeah, it's a valid point, but I don't know. I
understand what you mean.
The Nate Diaz thing sort of strikes a chord with me a little bit, where you sort of go, really? Okay, because like I said, I like Diaz. I like his fighting. I love the way he trash talks, but I love his fighting. It's real scrappy but technical at the same time. I absolutely love it. I love watching the Diaz brothers. But this is, I think, probably a little bit of the reason why the UFC, why we were probably struggling for stars and numbers, that they're allowing these. Not that they're allowing, because a fighter obviously has to fight when he wants to fight, but I can understand it. Conor's got like 180 million or something in the bank account. I can understand why Conor took a year and a half off. You know, absolutely, I don't get Diaz. You know, Diaz should have struck while the iron was hot there as well. You know what I mean? He was.
I do think you have a point there. I think the longer that Diaz waits out and is simply waiting for that fight with Conor, I think that will impact him. But I also think, on the other hand, I think if Conor doesn't fight, we spoke about this before as well, I don't think Conor is immune to it either. He's going to stay a star for a long time, I think. But eventually, if he doesn't fight, you know, people are going to just forget about him. Not forget, but people are just going to stop caring about him if he doesn't fight. If he's just out there, you know, doing what he's doing and not fighting, not doing what people want him to do, I think people are just going to say, you know, eventually. It'll take a long time, I think, but eventually they'll say, fuck it.
I don't know, peculiar. Two people who are fighting, I thought was quite interesting, is Khabib Nurmagomedov, Tony Ferguson. What's the thing about what his manager was saying about, it's basically he was pulling the Rocky, wasn't he? If he dies moment.
Yeah. Ali, up to his old tricks. I didn't like, I'll say one thing, and just from a reader point of view, I didn't like the way a lot of websites, I suppose, wrote their article or wrote the title of their article. And I know, you know, you have to do what you have to do, but it seemed like the way they were stating it was like, it seemed like it was Tony's manager. They didn't mention Khabib's manager. They said MMA manager or something, you know. So it was like Tony Ferguson may never fight again, MMA manager or agent, which was like a little bit tricky or whatever. But yeah, you know, that's Ali Abdelaziz being who he is. He talks a lot of trash. He talks more trash than his own fighters, which is funny. Maybe he feels like he has to give a little bit of a boost. He did say he wasn't trying to promote the fight. He just is truly fearful for Tony Ferguson, which, maybe, Khabib is a beast, but yeah, I think that's just Ali being Ali.
It's weird though, isn't it, in this day and age, as in, don't get me right, it's the whole, isn't it? What's your view? Love it when Shamrock said it to Tito Ortiz. I'm gonna beat you to living death, or whatever he said. But it's weird sort of talking about, I know it's the fight game, and we're not all expecting them to say pleasantries about one another. Like, I really love your fluffy hat that you wear to the octagon, but it's a bit weird when you're saying he's gonna do him so much physical damage that he's gonna retire from fighting. It's a bit hardcore, like. It's
a bit heavy, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, relax.
Yeah, calm down. But like, again, it is promoting the fight, because in a way we're talking about it. One thing I do want to say before we go any further as well is I do not want to talk about Conor McGregor fight Mayweather.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to cover that unless we're forced to, as in the fight is actually happening. I think we're going to stay away from that one, because it's terrible. But if anyone has any questions or any comments on what we just spoke about there, let us know. Do you think Tony Ferguson should be fearful for his life,
or should he beat him to living death? The other thing I wanted to hit on with Khabib Tony as well is it's more the manager as well. He started talking about Eddie Bravo, saying he's a legend, but your jiu-jitsu, he's saying he's happy for Khabib to go to the floor, but if it goes to the floor, he'll absolutely do the whole beat him to death thing. But then they somehow got on to John Kavanagh, and they questioned the legitimacy. I can't say that word for some reason there. The legitimacy of John Kavanagh's black belt.
Okay.
Again, do you think this is just absolute shite talk by the manager just to get the headlines, get the talk, or?
Yeah, like I don't really like talking about these kind of news articles or news pieces,
because I brought it up.
I know, but like, to be fair, they're not really news. It's just somebody's opinion on somebody else, and I don't know how he feels. Does he actually feel like John Kavanagh isn't the black belt? Maybe, but each their own, I suppose. But yeah, it's probably just Ali being Ali anyway, as I'll say. He likes to store some shit.
What do you think of other news? Again, more fights that they're looking at down the line. Demetrius Johnson says he and TJ Dillashaw are in discussions to co-headline UFC 226. We're in negotiations to co-headline. Johnson said via MMA Fighting, once my main man gets in there, I'll have him up to date of all the commands. That way, when people come in here and ask about TJ and Demetrius Johnson fighting each other, you guys know negotiations have begun. They have begun. So this out of the 3 super fights that we were talking about, was it last week or the week before? And I was like, this is the one super fight that I don't think it should be made. It should be made from DJ's standpoint, if you get me, if that makes any sense. But I don't think it should be made by TJ's stance, his stance, because he's just won the belt and all that. And then him and Cody having a little back and forth. I did like that. But what I did like as well, what TJ said to Garbrandt, I had to sit out for so long. You earn your rematch, and rightfully so. He won by knockout. So there was no dispute. It wasn't like it was a close split decision the way TJ got an instant rematch against Dominic Cruz. Oh wait, that never happened. So good point by TJ. You're not getting a rematch, but I think there's other guys there, the likes of your Dom Cruz. I know he's injured at the moment, but Dom, you Jimmy Rivera. Do you know what I mean? So there's guys in that division that I think TJ needs to fight before the whole super fight thing. If the fight happens, will I watch it? Will I be excited? Fuck yeah, of course I will. It's a great fight, but I just think in that aspect, I know I've sort of covered it before. I just think out of the Cyborg Nunes fight, out of the DC and Stipe fight, that is the one fight that doesn't have the legitimate reason for it to happen.
Yeah, like just again, we kind of gave our thoughts on the actual fight. We can talk a little bit about the potential Garbrandt fight if we want, but on the TJ fight, he did try to bring up an argument that there wasn't really many in the division looking for a title fight. I'd argue that Jimmy Rivera is deserving of a title fight. Maybe some people will say that he had, like what TJ said was that he hasn't really beat anybody highly ranked, so somebody in the top 2 or 3 or whatever. So you could say that, but I still think based on his resume, based on what 20 something wins or 20 wins, whatever it is, I think he's deserving of a title fight. So I wouldn't agree with him there, but I do understand his point that if they're gonna do DJ versus TJ, maybe now is the right time to do it because there's not a legit challenger there. I understand that, but I still disagree that Jimmy Rivera probably should get a title fight anyway.
You roll it back 3 fights. You got Thomas Almeida, you got Uriah Faber, and Alcantara all beaten by Jimmy Rivera.
Yeah.
So they're 3 names that I think are legitimate contenders. I know Thomas Almeida has since gone on and hasn't done great things. You could argue that Uriah was at the end of his time, but former so I don't know.
Just a quick one. Speaking of Faber, did you see the video that was up on Reddit today? About it was just about what's his face, Sage Norco training in Team Alpha Male, and there was a video of him, and it was just him saying Mr. Faber, like just always referring to Uriah Faber as Mr. Faber, and it's one of the funniest things ever because just Sage Norco is just hilarious. He's such a nice guy.
A gentle, polite young man.
Yeah. What do you think of Garbrandt looking for a title fight? I understand why he wants it, but I'd like to know your thoughts.
Yeah, it's like, see, I think the TJ fight is a tough one to sort of to do because there was a lot of emotion went into that fight. There was a lot of that was a big build up to it. It wasn't your stereotypical normal championship bout. I think it's pretty safe to say. But he lost convincingly. I know, he hurt TJ in the first round, had him wobble a little bit, but no, TJ came out and absolutely put him out so I don't see the quick turnaround. And if anybody knows why you should be getting a rematch straight off, you could argue TJ is because of the fight with Dom Cruz. So for me, no, I don't think he warrants an instant rematch. I don't think just because you were the champion and you lose a championship fight that you should get an automatic rematch.
Yeah,
because it sets the whole division back a couple of months.
Yeah, especially the way that one ended. That one was very convincing. TJ Dillashaw beat him, and you can argue that Garbrandt had him hurt in the first, but it was a decisive finish. It's not like it was a close decision or something where you could warrant it. And Garbrandt had no defenses, title defenses. I mean, so it's not like he's a dominant champion.
Yeah, exactly. He's not a long-standing champion, so there's in a way there's no recourse for the rematch straight away.
Yeah.
He should have to go off and get a couple of victories and then climb himself back up to the ladder. But that's what I'm saying. Realistically, if you look at Garbrandt, that's what must be frustrating. If you take it from the Garbrandt team side, they're now going to look at DJ going out and fighting TJ going out and fighting DJ, and that you then know that's setting the division back a while because this fight is going to happen. What did they say? 226 was it?
Yeah.
So it's going to happen at 226. So you are not, even if you win your next fight, you're possibly still another fight away. So potentially you have 2 fights before you can even get a shot. Because let's say TJ DJ is an absolute masterclass of a fight, as I'd imagine it would be. It has the potential to be an incredible matchup. That's a really close fight, and let's say TJ wins, you're going to give Demetrius Johnson a rematch. Do you know what I mean? He's setting records, so 100% the Garbrandt or any other one in the division is probably looking at that going, shit. They're either hoping that DJ runs out and absolutely destroys TJ, or TJ gets Demetrius done in one and it's like, he's too big for him, let's not do that again, that was a terrible idea. Because if that goes to a close decision and it's a split decision win, either way they are rematching that. So potentially it could set the whole division back a year.
Yeah, potentially. And I also think there was one thing I was thinking about, it's kind of on the super fights, all this kind of stuff, and the way the UFC seem to be matchmaking right now. I think there's something to be said about smart matchmaking, and by that I mean you don't always need to make the best fight, maybe the best fight on paper possible all the time. And the reason why I say that is, think of it like, and again this is a weird analogy, but think of it like a movie, like a film. If there's no like where if there's nowhere to go in the middle of the story, or in the middle of the whatever the thing, what happens? People just tune out. You know, it's kind of like, at the end of the day, it's a sport, but it's also the reason why people stay tuned in, especially casual fans, is because they see a guy. So they'll see a guy in a fight, and they'll see some kind of progression for him. If I see Mr. X, I'm going to call him, fight somebody, and then he's announced he's going to get a title fight, and then it goes on from there, I'll be interested in his story to watch the title fight or whatever. But then if they're just making fights just out of the blue, and we just stop caring because, you know, it doesn't matter who gets a title fight because they're just going to try plug anybody into that spot, people are just going to stop caring. There's no story there. There's nothing. And that's why I think you don't always have to make the fight that maybe is best on paper in terms of what's going to bring in money, because as we've seen from a lot of fights it's in recent, like the kind of Mayweather McGregor stuff has aged terribly. I think it's aged horribly. You know, it was great in the moment, but now you're kind of looking back at it like, that wasn't all that great, really, was it? But yeah,
I think everybody knew that. Sure, I openly said it's not going to be a good,
course.
You know.
But I mean, it made
I got reeled in though. I probably got reeled in with all the press conferences and stuff. Sir, Mr. Perk, you all right, lads? Yeah, Grant, first time checking you. Stick around me, man. We normally in a beautiful studio, but we're sitting at home this week. The question there: who do you think is next for Darren the Gorilla Till? Officially christened that, I believe, by Dan Hardy now.
Yeah.
205-pound gorilla.
Very good.
Yeah, it's the only thing I can say.
Who's next for him?
Next for Till, yeah. Like, funny because there was a lot of talk. Even John Kavanagh had tweeted it. There was a bit of Twitter, as in the modern day matchmaking of the UFC, the tweet machine. Twitter was in full motion, and it looked like Darren Till and Gunny Nelson was going to be made for London. John Kavanagh had went as far to say that we signed our contract, you signed yours. And then nothing happened. It was all hearsay. I honestly think if I was a betting man, such I am, I think because of the story and the fact now that Till, I believe Till is he's either sick or injured. That's potentially why London didn't happen. Okay. But I think him and Mike Perry is going to happen next. I just think it's such a fun fight. Yeah. I just think two of them are absolutely, like, they've been going back and forth when Till beat Cerrone. Perry was up by the cage, and even though Perry was coming off a loss, I still just think it's a fun fight, and I just think it'd be a great fight. So potentially I think that could be next. Is it the right fight for Darren Till? I don't think he gives a fuck. I just think he'd want to get in there. He's that tight that he's had the back and forth with Perry, and I just think that it's a fun fight. I think that's a fan favourite fight, a potential fight of the year. I wouldn't be arguing against the Gunny Nelson fight either, but if you look at the rankings, both of them are a jump back. Darren Till currently ranked 8th in the world. So you have, just checking them here, you have Gunny is 16th in the world respectively, and you have Mike Perry down to 19th in the world. So it's a step in the wrong direction in some ways. A fight that could make sense, a former guest of ours, Rob, I don't know, I'm just looking at the rankings here and it says, it's going off 3-fight win streak. Yancy Medeiros could be a good fight. Yeah,
Yancey's fighting somebody soon. Cowboy.
Oh,
is that right?
Yancy is, isn't he?
I think he's fighting Cowboy soon. Patrick Leonard said that Darren Till's in Brazil visiting his wee girl. Nice trip. It's weird because the two fights that seem to be on the table that seem to make sense in certain ways is the ones you said, Mike Perry and Gunnar Nelson, both guys coming off losses, which is probably not where Darren Till should be going. He should be fighting somebody on a win and somebody maybe higher than him just based on his trajectory. You don't really want to pull him back. He's the type of guy who you want to, build up pretty quickly at this point, because it's not like he's, he has only like 1 or 2 fights in MMA or something. He's just some prodigy. He's a guy who's fought in MMA for a long time now. He's finally kind of got a bit of a following. You want to capitalize on that. So somebody higher up. The Wonderboy fight makes sense, but
yeah, he really wants Wonderboy.
He really wants Wonderboy again. It's just I don't know. It's definitely not the smartest fight for Wonderboy to take. So I can understand why his people would be saying, yeah, let's try somebody else, because it's a difficult fight. Darren Till, although he has a big name now, maybe you wouldn't get. I don't know. You'd still get something from it, I suppose. It's probably the wrong thing to say. You'd get nothing from it because Darren Till is, a really popular guy now. But it's a dangerous fight. Just like the Cowboy fight, or the fight, Cowboy taking the fight with Darren Till was dangerous as well. But yeah, Patrick Leonard said Masvidal or Wonderboy would be a good matchup. Masvidal's a great one too.
I agree. Like the names people are saying here, you are right. The asterisk is definitely beside Gunny's loss. Ponzinibbio's eye was definitely fishing that night, fishing for eyeballs. But I
was reading that saying I didn't know who that was. I was trying to figure out who that was.
I think you've Ponzinibbio, you have Wonderboy. Are they the fights that'll get made? I'm not too sure. I don't know. It's a tough one, Darren. We were only speaking, if you only jumped on now, lads, we were talking a little earlier and we were saying, Darren Till needs to not strike while the iron is hot, but, he's a lot of momentum and a lot of big following, and he's really popular. He's been on like MMA Hour a good few times. Yeah, he's even been on with ourselves a few times. So yeah, it's I think he does need to fight and sort of use that momentum. Like if Darren Till was to beat another guy in the top 10, even top 15, yeah, he's legitimately. I think we said it as well, Rob. He's like potentially 2 fights away from title shot.
Yeah, he's definitely very close. Patrick Leonard said Usman. That's another great one. There's a lot of people in the welterweight division. I think Usman seems to be on the bad side of Dana White at the moment. So I don't know if he'd be given, because to be fair, if you fight Darren Till right now because of the popularity that he has, it still is you're getting pushed into the spotlight of sorts. So I think that's a great fight for Usman as well. So I don't know, because Dana White is Dana White, maybe they won't make that fight, but it is a good one.
Sign Rory McDonald back to the UFC and get Darren Till in there. Rory McDonald, what a fun fight that'd be. Till's an absolute animal. I want to see him back in there as soon as possible. So obviously, if he's in Brazil visiting his daughter, obviously he's taking a bit of time, and fair play to him. But
I also will say, before we move on from Darren Till, if you haven't seen any of our interviews with Darren Till, we've had two really good interviews, I think. You can go onto the channel, click subscribe, and then you can watch them later.
Look at Rob, you're an unsubscribe whore. Look, great work, you whore. One thing I want to talk about, lads, and I'm sure we'll all agree, not the best weekend for that guy.
Who's that?
Can you not see what I'm doing?
I can see you're doing a heart.
Everybody wants to be a gangster until they have to do some gangster shit. Mario Yama, if she dies, she dies. It's crazy. My love heart is great. It's on a delay, and I see it here. That's a fantastic love heart. Mario Yamasaki, the whole referee thing. What was it? 200 punches to 3 punches was the stats on the fight. I think there was plenty. I think he was on MMA, and he admitted himself. He said that he basically signalled that she had to keep moving. Every time he asked her, she moved. So she was constantly trying to control herself and get out of there. He said, I can't control the number of blows that are thrown. You sort of can, Mario. You can stop it. That's sort of the description of the job. And fighters he's sort of saying, fighters go through hard camps to get to and show dedication to where they are. I'd have the counter argument there that yes, they go through a hard camp. They don't need to go through an absolute pummeling. Like, that fight could have taken 2 fights off the career of the fighter in that sense. You know what I mean? There's the whole fight, live to fight another day expression will come into it. To be honest, I didn't watch the fight live. I watched it back. My dodgy box acted up, so if anybody knows anyone selling good Android dodgy boxes,
get us thrown off YouTube, mate.
A link. But yeah, I was struggling to watch the fights live, so I watched them back. But you were looking at it going, he'll stop it now. Yeah, he's going to step in. No, yeah, he's letting it go. But some people also question the Conor. Now from referees that I work with a lot of referees here in Ireland, including the wonderful Daniel Mulcahy, who was a regular on the show here. I work with a lot of referees over the years, and a lot of referees will sort of tell you that they take into consideration, obviously, the damage being inflicted. Do they have a possibility of winning the fight themselves? Are they getting out of the position, first of all? Do they have a realistic chance of winning this fight? No, is the answer to all them questions so far. Do they have a chance of winning by submission? No, they don't. They weren't throwing up any submission defenses. Their ground game was very basic and average, to say the least, defensively trying to defend strikes. Yeah. Yes, they were wriggling, they were trying to get up, but for me, the fighter took an unnecessary beating, and I thought it should have been stopped. Dana White, as Dana White does, Dana White's been speaking out about Mario Yamasaki for a long time, and saying with the beautiful Steve Mazzagatti, and rightfully so, Steve Mazzagatti. Mario, he makes love hearts with his gloves, and he calls fighters warriors, so they are warriors. But I think his job, more importantly, all joking aside, is to look out for that fighter's safety. And I think on Saturday night, he didn't do the best job of that.
Yeah, I think his statement to say that he gave the fighter a chance to be a warrior, or maybe I'm misquoting him slightly there, but that's basically the crux of his thing, is not the best thing to say. You're not really there to let the fighter be a warrior. You're there to protect the fighter against blows they don't need to take. And I think she took way too many blows that she didn't need to take. Yeah. The one thing that got me was that he was saying that she was moving. But as far as I'm aware, Mario Yamazaki is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And if you watch that fight and you watch the attempts while she was on her back to regain guard or to make any movement when she was in the crucifix position and she was bucking up with her hips, which, doesn't do anything when you're in the crucifix position. You have to do something else. You need to try get some kind of leg control or something else. You need to do something else. She was bucking with her hips, which is not going to do anything. So sure, she was moving, but she clearly wasn't making the right movements to progress and to get out of position. I don't think that's enough. I think as a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner and as a referee, I think you need to know when a person is in a vulnerable position and they're not doing the right thing to get out. If they're not doing the right thing to get out, it doesn't matter if they're moving. They're not doing the right movements to get out. And that's what I think a referee needs to know. Any Joe Blow could look at a fight and say, oh, they were moving, let the fight go. But it's up to the referee to be the one in there to say, yes, they are moving, but they're not making the movements I want them to make that would lead them to get out of this position and protect themselves. So I think it was just a poor stoppage. Wasn't the worst I've seen. I've definitely seen worse, but it was pretty bad. And yeah,
what do you think of the she was brought in to make Valentina look like she was doing what she was, that she could get a KO or TKO?
Yeah, your Mr. Burke said that the commission put the blame on Yamazaki for the mismatch as well. And he said it's the blame for the stoppage, and not which is true. The blame for the matchmaking is on the UFC, and Dana White came out and said that this is going to happen, but it shouldn't really happen. You're the biggest organization in the world. I understand that the division is young, but for example, look at Jack Slack. Jack Slack, if anyone doesn't watch him, and I'm sure you do if you're on here, he called out the fight before it happened and said, "Don't be surprised if she takes a beating." Or not even don't be surprised if she takes, don't be surprised when she takes a beating, and don't say Valentina is the best fighter in the world. It's going to happen, and that's what happened. The UFC should have known that, and they should have known that it wasn't really a competitive fight ever. The girl done really, really well, and I said the girl because I forget her name, unfortunately, sorry about that, but she done very, very well to stay in there, but she was tough, but that's what she was. She was really tough. And it was a mismatch, and that's on the UFC, and that's on also the commission as well. Like, the commission are coming out and saying they're kind of protecting themselves because they need to approve the fight too. So they're just trying to protect themselves as well.
Next minute you'll get commissions like fucking like WWE superstars take on fucking young up and coming MMA fighters. You know what I mean? If it makes money, it makes sense. And fuck, do they love money in Brazil? But all joking aside, the great point there by Summerberg as well is she's getting a lot of praise for taking a beating. this is something as a fighter. I'm sure there's no fighter that down the line are sitting talking to their friends years later. Oh, did you ever see that fight I had? I got my ass whooped, but I fucking stayed in there full 3 rounds. Look at the beating I took. Nobody wants to be known as that. And like there's fighters that you can say have great heart, like the big comebacks. Like you look at one of the fights that everybody would say that should have been stopped was Czech Congo against Pat Berry, and look what happened. Do you know what I mean? So there is that crazy wild opportunity. Czech Congo has that power to get that finishing shot, you know.
There's a huge difference there, and the huge difference relates back to my last point, which is the difference between that one, and I understand why it wasn't stopped, is because what happened in that fight was that Czech Congo got dropped not immediately, but got back to his feet. Like he was out, but he got back to his feet. So in that moment, the referee needs to make a split second decision and say, should I stop this fight? The difference in that is that Mario Yamazaki was watching Valentina land all these unanswered shots, and he had plenty of time to see. He had plenty of time to think about it, and it just didn't happen. The stoppage didn't come. So there's a huge difference there.
Do you know what it reminded me of? I think it was on ACB. It was at ACB where a fight just kept going on and on and on, and the fighter, I mean, was getting absolutely pummeled, and it was like the Rocky. I was just expecting to see somebody stop the fight. It was, and it's not a good look, no matter for what aspect. I think a little bit of blame has to go with whoever was the matchmaker that week. It wasn't a great match. For number one, the commission have a lot to answer for as well, but so does Mario Yamasaki. But I certainly don't think Mario Yamasaki is the only one to blame. But unfortunately, he is the referee that was in there, seen the mismatch up close and did stop it. So in that sense, he's to blame. Quickly scrolling up, go on, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, one thing I want to ask, I don't know if you've seen it, and maybe someone in the chat can let me know, but I heard that the corner wasn't very helpful either. I think she went back to her corner or something and said that she was hurt, and they just said, going back out or something. Maybe I could be wrong. I read that somewhere. Tell me if I'm right, anybody. But I just want to know that, basically.
While you're on that, the main event scene, Lyoto Machida, again, I just sort of want to, great victory for him, by the way, over Prospect and Anders. But rumour mill is that Bisping, Machida for Bisping's long goodbye. What do we think of that?
I like it. You know, similar to the way I like most veterans versus Bisping for his last fight. I don't want to see Michael Bisping go out there and fight. And I know he's not going to fight Kelvin Gastelum, but, you know, an example, a Kelvin Gastelum of sorts, a young prospect or anything like that. What's the point? What are you going to get from fighting some young prospect when you know that you're going out there to have your last fight? I think it's a good one. You know, Lyoto Machida is very, very respectful. Bisping said that he wanted to go out there and fight somebody that he respects because he doesn't want to go out looking like a dick, pretty much. So I like the matchup. You know, it makes sense. Lyoto Machida wants it. Yeah.
I had it on very good authority at the weekend that Rashad Evans Bisping was that close to being made.
Yeah.
Just that close. And it would have been at 205.
Oh. Yeah, why not?
Rashad coming off 4 fights, last make off 2.
Yeah.
Scrolled up there, did we talk about Ali? We did. We talked about his little rant. Black Eye Productions. How big of fans are you of Brendan Schaub? Is that a bit of trolling there? Black Eye Productions there. Set of hair on him.
He's got a set of teeth on him.
Do you know what? I used to listen to Fighter and the Kid every episode, and I just don't anymore. And it's not because I don't like Brendan Schaub. We were talking about Darren Till earlier. When Brendan Schaub had a go at Darren Till, we said it to Darren on the show, and Darren went absolutely off, and that's what all that was about on MMA Junkie. So that was the interview with us, and we were like, you fucking nailed it. But yeah, and now when you look at Brendan Schaub, he's the fucking cheerleader for Team Till. You know what I mean? He's obviously memorised the Wikipedia page, the Darren Till Wikipedia page, to an absolute T, because he sings from the roof. But like, look, that's, you know, we're all guilty of that. You know what I mean? I think Brendan Schaub, when he was given that breakdown, was sort of like, I don't know this Darren Till guy. I know Cowboy Cerrone loads, so it's a bad fight for Cowboy to take because I don't know. Darren Till, and now he's awoke to Darren Till, and he's like, holy shit, this guy is good, you know. And he's obviously then spoke with a couple of guys, and he's got the background of Darren Till's Muay Thai background and stuff like that. But I don't dislike Brendan Schaub. I tried to get tickets to go see him when he played the Sugar Club here. Was it the Sugar Club? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I tried to get tickets, couldn't get tickets. But he's all right. I'd listen to the odd time. I would listen to it the odd time.
Yeah, I don't mind him. I'm not like
I have my regular hits on audio on my podcast that I listen to.
Yeah.
And if there wasn't an update, and maybe 3 of them.
Yeah.
Maybe 4.
He's
I like his breakdown sometimes when he has like someone on like Chael Sonnen or something like that. Yeah. I like them, but
he's not bad. Like he's not a go-to for me.
But you gotta give it to him, Rob. Though I realise I keep cutting you off, so I apologise.
Yeah.
I gotta give it to him though. He's done well.
Yeah, he's
done brilliant for himself.
Put out a little niche for himself, and fair play to him. That's great.
I like Brendan Schaub more when he's on Rogan than when he's on just the Fighter and the Kid constantly.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know. It's just sometimes the gadoosh and all that, you know.
Yeah.
Sort of phase. I'm sure there's people that listen to this and go, I hate when Noel says this or Rob says that, but like, hey,
yeah,
we're not as successful as Brendan Schaub, yeah. Yeah, Rodriguez back in the cage. Rob, this was one of yours, Patrick. Yeah. Rob is being singing Yeah Rodriguez. It was Rob's pick last year. You're just sticking with the Mexicans. You picked,
seem to be, yeah.
Yeah, see, you look a bit Mexican as well, so that's what that is.
Probably, yeah.
But yeah, Rodriguez, Rob, do you want to see him back in there sooner or later?
Of course, yeah, absolutely. Again, he's one of those guys that was thrown to the wolves a little bit too quickly, and even though I'm a huge fan of him, I picked him against Edgar because it was just a little bit too quick. I just don't think his skills were there. So that was unfortunate, but he's such a great fighter. He's great talent, and he's made huge improvements from when he was on Tough. I didn't watch Tough, but I watched his fights. I went back and watched them. But looking at the improvements that he made from there, and then probably about 2 years or something on, was very, very impressive. And it kind of goes to show you the type of athlete that he is and what he could have been. So hopefully he comes back soon. I'd really like to see him back in the cage. I'm not sure why he's not in the cage. I'm not sure why he hasn't fought. Probably a few injuries or something.
He last fight obviously was Frankie Edgar. I'm just looking at it here. It was back in May though. So yeah, a long time off. But even when you look at it, like you've got BJ Penn, Alex Cazares, and Andre Philly. So feeling he's had he's fought some guys. Daniel Hooker before that. So
yeah, it's just I just think Frankie Edgar was just a little bit too much. You know, we didn't see him being able to deal with guys of that caliber. Yeah, and I know at some point you're not going to fight those guys until you fight those guys, if you get me. But I just don't think he was ready for that one.
Oh, wow. Look at Will. The fight Will suggested.
Say the name.
I just said it.
Say it again.
You just cut me off as I said it.
Say it again.
Magomed Sharapov.
Magomed Sharapov. Yep. Pretty much.
I was listening to John Anik all before it. I was literally, as you were sending me stuff that we're going to chat about, I was like, no, I'm just listening to John Anik saying that name. But that will be a fun fight, just because there's crazy kicks and stuff that'd be thrown. But you know, I honestly think there's just, and it's not just because of Khabib. Like, I don't know if you guys are listening, if you look at other promotions outside of UFC, I'm sure you do, but like you look at like some of the Russians that are out there, and Rob loves his crazy Russians. Like I just think the Russians are the future as well in MMA. I think there's a lot of crazy Russians coming through that are going to like really take off.
Yeah, I think so, and that guy is scary good. He's scary good too. I think think Rodriguez is scary good too, but that is a tough fight. That guy is impressive, and as Will said, apparently he can hang with Edgar in the gym. That's what the talk is, which is impressive.
Speaking of tough, since you mentioned tough, are you going to watch it? Rob is notoriously opposed to tough, but with DC and Stipe, are you going to watch it?
Probably not. I'll be honest, probably not. I'm not a big fan of it. What I was going to do, I was going to suggest it, and I was going to say I should watch Tough every week and review it. But then I was like, I don't really want to put myself through that, so I don't think I will. But Yeah.
What is it about Tough you don't like? Is it the fact that they try to dramatize it and make it like the X Factor, or
I'm not really
America's
into
Got
reality
Talent?
shows, to be honest. I'm not a big reality show watcher. So everything but the fight I don't really like. The coaches challenge can be funny, especially. Do you remember the Mayhem Miller and Michael Bisping coaches challenge when Bisping won and he jumped on the table? And that was hilarious. That was very funny. But
I liked. I think the last season I actually watched was Conor and Faber.
yeah, I watched that because that was for what fight was that coming up to? That was for Conor versus Aldo, right? Yeah, because
No,
it was.
beat Aldo. Did he not just beat Aldo?
No, it was for Conor Aldo because I was going over for Conor Aldo, and then I was going to see the Tough finale before that, the night before. So I was like, I better watch Tough so I know who was there, and it ended up being Ryan Hall versus Jesus Artem.
Yeah,
So
Artem.
I didn't even have to watch it because I knew both of them. So
Yeah,
I just
Chloe.
wasted like probably 12 to 13 hours of my life.
We've got a comment, Rob, that says interim belt.
Interim belt for who?
Interim belt. Should Colby versus RDA for the interim belt? UFC 222 should either be Colby for RDA for the interim belt, or Cody v Frankie, or Frankie v Ortega for the interim belt. Frankie and Ortega looks like it's penciled in according to Ariel Hawani. No, I disagree with them. Not just because I just don't like interim. Woodley's defended his belt. I think the interim should be when the champion isn't really available. He's just had surgery on his shoulder, I believe, Woodley. And Max Holloway just beat Jose Aldo in stunning victory. Let's just do an old school thing and let's call him a number one title bout, or a contender, a number one contender. That sits so much better with me. I don't need to see the UFC belt.
The only thing I will say for the interim belt, I don't want to see another interim belt, but the only thing I will say for the interim belt is that the fighters get paid a lot more money if it's for an interim belt, and that's the only good thing that comes from it, in my opinion. If it's gonna be that the fighter gets paid half of what he could get paid for the interim title, I'd be kind of an asshole to say no, don't make that an interim title. I don't like interim titles, so I don't want to see it. But if it's a substantial more amount of money for the fighter, then take it. They're fucking useless anyway. Not the fighters, the belts.
Yeah. No, do you know who's laughing all the way? The guy who makes the belts.
Oh yeah.
He is in absolutely. He is in the Celtic tiger of the belt making industry right now.
That reference went over a lot of people's heads.
I know it didn't.
I think it did.
Maybe it did. Yeah, the bubble is not burst in UFC belt making house. He is living the high life at the moment. Like he's like Oprah Winfrey. He's like a belt for everybody. A belt for everybody. It's absolutely ridiculous. Black Guys Production, couldn't agree with you more. Colby commenting is a cunt for ruining Star Wars.
Every show.
Yeah, it comes up.
You still haven't seen Star Wars, have you? Don't spoil anything.
No.
I still didn't ask you what the spoiler was because I've seen it, but I haven't asked you what the spoiler was. I didn't want to give it away with my face,
Yeah, no, I'm disappointed. With that fight though, Colby RDA makes sense. It's a good fight. Colby's there. Great victory over Damian Maia. So like what Colby is doing outside of the cage of the mountain, here I am giving out about him again. So he's doing something. Yeah. But he's an excellent fighter in the cage. Like in fairness, he's fantastic. I can't disagree with him. But just don't be giving away plots and things to the biggest movies of the year. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah, because win over Damian Maia was very impressive. Although at points he got outstruck by Maia, which I was, whatever.
Surprised by, Robert.
Surprised by. Yeah.
Oh no, are people now saying things in the chat? Don't be that guy.
Come on.
Don't be that guy.
I'm not gonna read it because I don't want to give my my face away if it's true.
Milkman, don't be that guy. Come on. I'm distraught now. Milkman is ruining me.
You don't know if it's true.
I don't know if it's true. Well, maybe he knows what the Kobe Compton tweet was. Max Holloway related though. like I just think that's too quick of a turnaround. Interim belt. Like Max Holloway's injured. The guy's an absolute star. For me, I think he's potentially the biggest star in the UFC, along with Khabib. They're two real guys that they could push a lot more in some ways. But like Max Holloway, his response to Conor's tweet the other day.
Max's response.
Yeah. Because Conor put up the tweet. Like in fairness, Conor's tweet was fantastic. Conor's tweet was absolutely fantastic, but Max's comeback about when there's no referee to save you, and then Max saying, "Yeah, when Bruce Willis can see dead people." See it from the spoiler. We can guess the movie.
No, stop.
Sixth Sense. Hey. Yeah. Kevin Spacey's Kaiser Sosa. That's my one.
Lads in the chat, you've ruined Noel's point. He was going to make a very astute point.
Yeah, it was about Max Holloway. And it's just saying about Conor. I just think it's what did Conor's tweet really mean? Well, it was a little bit confused by it. Well, he was basically saying when there's no ref to save you, he was lining up, he had his face buzzed. I think it was the face more so that
it was
Max Holloway was buzzing. He looked like a lost little schoolboy or something.
It was, to be fair, they're both very good tweets. When you look at MMA guys tweeting at each other and trash talking, they were two of the better ones I've seen recently. Like Max Holloway's response was very funny. That was good. Mr. Burke there is saying, I love to see Max Conor too. That's my dream fight. If I could rematch fight, that's my fight. Yes. And Max Holloway was saying a week or two ago that he won't stay at 45 forever, that he'll move up to 55. And you can see them again, as we were saying just a little earlier about social media. It's the new matchmaker, and I just think that if Max Holloway and Conor McGregor were to have a good back and forth like they have, I honestly think that fight would sell, and I think it's the best. For me, outside of Conor fighting Khabib, the winner of Khabib or Ferguson, I think Max Holloway, Conor McGregor is an absolutely incredible fighter, because you'll have people in Conor's side, fans, saying, Conor beat him and he done it with a blown ACL. And you go, yeah, right, Grant. Max Holloway has barely lost a round since then. He's also had a knee injury in the Conor McGregor fight. So, both fighters are completely different guys right now. That's not the same fight. You're putting two different fighters into the cage against one another. Two of them are I just love it. And I honestly can imagine UFC Hawaii, Conor McGregor, Max. That'd be unbelievable. That'd be amazing. That fight is the fight that I've wanted to see a rematch for a long time. And even when the fight happened and it finished, it still felt a little bit like, especially when we heard about the injuries and stuff like that, it felt a little bit like, if this fight happened a little bit down the line, it'd probably be even better. Especially considering how both of them have grown since. As you said, if they fought now, you could pretty much disregard that first fight. Pretty much.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe look at some of the shots on the feet, like Conor's, that uppercut he likes to throw. Has Max adjusted to that, because Conor landed that a few times. Stuff like that, little things, but pretty much you're looking at a completely different fight. Max Holloway is a completely different fighter. Conor's a completely different fighter. And I will say as well, something that we've spoke about a couple of times was that, what will Conor's boxing look like when he comes back to MMA? It is a valid question. Is it going to be that much improved? Who knows? I think it will be. I think he looked, his hands look pretty decent. But I'd love to see that one. Love it.
One other thing that came from the weekend was John Dodson. He didn't fight the weekend. He was due to fight against Pedro Munoz, UFC, I'll call him. But Munoz came in overweight. Dodson didn't take the fight. I'd be interested to see what people think about this. Should he have taken the fight, even though his opponent came in overweight? Should Dodson still have taken the fight, got the extra purse? But now it looks like he potentially is not getting his show money. Dodson came in and was ready to go on weight, and it looks like he's not going to get it. What do we think of that?
Again, another one. Should he have taken the fight? I don't know. There's a possibility that I don't know. I know he had an interview yesterday on the MMA Hour. I haven't got a chance to listen to it, so I'm not sure what reason he gave. I know the guy he was fighting was a lot bigger. Like Dodson is naturally, he's naturally a 35er, but he can make 25 pretty handily. So he's already a pretty small bantamweight.
They were asking for Muniz to come in at 142 on the day.
Yeah, but he came in at like much higher, way higher.
What I think is the weird part about this for Dodson, so which is the hard part for Dodson. This was technically the last fight on his contract.
Yeah. Yeah, but on the show money, win money, apparently the wording on the contract isn't show, it's complete the fight. Yeah. So I don't think it should be that. I think if you come in and you make weight, I think you should get paid. But again, that's something that you have to negotiate with the UFC. But I think it should be that, because to go through a whole training camp without that insurance of at least I'm going to get paid, I'm going to do my job and I'll get paid is horrible. Like, how can you work under those conditions in a way? That's a very difficult thing. Not knowing if you're going to be paid or not based on the other guy.
Well, it happened as well with Vitor Belfort as well. With obviously Uriah Hall. Vitor was ready to go and he didn't get paid. As far as the last scene, and that Vitor didn't get paid either.
Yeah, Will Bugdale. No, there should be a rule for sure. If every fighter demanded it in their new contracts, then it would happen. I agree. I think it's something that managers of fighters need to really come together and get, because I hope that 20 years down the line we look back and say, wow, most fighters didn't get paid for doing their job. You can't rely on the other guy to make weight. That's just, I don't know. I just think that's crazy. Crazy talk. That's the way it is. And when a fighter doesn't get paid for it, I'm not going to look at the UFC and say you're horrible people. That's just the way it is at the moment.
But it's unacceptable, and you know what I mean. It sounds so stupid and simple to say, but it's not acceptable. Like, as in, you know what I mean. If put it in any other trade, you know what I mean. If you turned up for your job, you know what I mean, and you're ready to go, and the boss just didn't turn up, I don't know. It's I don't know. It's a weird one. I just think fighters should be shown a lot more respect for what they put on the line. I really do think. I don't know. We're getting asked. I was just about to jump on. It's just twice it's been mentioned, so I thought I should address it here in the chat. Patrick's asking, and I can't remember who asked it earlier, about the real belt. The real belt. Khabib, Tony, the real belt. When the others still arguing, yeah. As Conor says to some guy in the street with a camera phone, all the belts are in my gaff. You know what I mean? So. Gaff, for anyone who's not Irish. I think everyone is Irish who's watching, not too sure.
Tell us where you're from, by the way. Not that we want to find you. And
Gaff is a house, is your home, is your homestead, is your castle.
Your abode.
Patrick, we put on our conspiracy caps with this one there. UFC 3 was out this week, and the cover is Conor with the 2 belts, and we're like, I'm gonna strip him, and the bleeding game's coming out and he hasn't got one of them belts anymore. So I don't know. Is it cause Conor's done so much for the company, and we've done the boxing, and there's a little bit of an agreement there? Is it that the UFC think Khabib will win? It'll be huge in Russia, Conor, Khabib in Russia, like that would be just insane.
Yeah. So, give me the question. What's the question? I'm not on it. Which one's for the real belt?
Khabib, yeah. Jesus, here we are saying everyone's from Ireland. Nobody's from Ireland. Manchester, Nevada, London.
I think
Manchester, you blue or red?
Oh, Jesus. Sorry,
go on.
I think England, they use gaff, don't they? They use the word gaff. I think so. We'll find out.
Gaff.
So basically the question is, Tony Ferguson versus Khabib, is it for the real title? Whoever wins that fight, I will consider the best lightweight in the world. Is that a cop-out answer? Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. But so in theory, then yes, I suppose. I don't know. It's a weird one. It's technically not the real belt, but if Conor comes back, if Conor doesn't come back by the time, or announced before that fight happens, to come back, or he isn't announced to defend the title, then yeah, I'd probably I'd consider that the real title.
Yeah, I said that as well, that if Conor does get stripped, it doesn't matter. When he comes back, it's still going to be the biggest fight in the UFC. It doesn't matter what other person you put on the card. Yeah, it is for the real belt. Conor's fought in the division once, albeit he went an absolute... For me, Conor's performance against Eddie was the best Conor McGregor we've ever seen in the octagon. I thought he was absolutely... He looked like the Matrix. But, yeah, I just... I think Khabib... I know Khabib's been injured and weight-cutting issues and issues like that, but like Khabib and Ferguson, they're lightweights. Conor was a featherweight moving up to lightweight to win the belt, to create history. He'd done that. Yes, he's fought a lightweight before. But yeah, I think the winner of this is the real champion, to be perfectly honest. And the fact that Conor hasn't competed in the sport, definitely, like, you know what I mean? It's the real belt. I definitely think it's the real belt. If the fight was to go down in Russia, they are three hours ahead of us, I think. So let me check that. Google. Yeah, so it's 20 to 2 in the morning. So what's that, 4 hours? No, 3 hours. So it's 20 to 2 in the morning in Russia now. So they normally pay-per-view at what, like 10 o'clock down? No, but I mean, for us here...
it's actually 2 in the morning there now.
It's 2 in the morning there now in Russia.
I wonder what they'd do.
Yeah. Yeah, so it probably doesn't suit the whole paper. Yeah, it probably doesn't suit the whole... I don't see him knocking out. The previous champ makes you the paper champ, mate. But I do agree he should be stripped. Well, I think the whole paper champ comes from not defending it. You've won the belt, but you never defend it. That's where paper champ comes from.
I know Carl, former host, used to call him paper champ. I don't call him a paper champ. I don't know what the exact definition of that is, but he certainly isn't a very dominant champion. He hasn't defended a title, so that's a problem. Yeah.
Well, here's one for you as well. I know I said it before, but as well, if you look at if Conor did get stripped, this could be a reason why they mightn't strip him. If he does fight the winner and wins, it means he still hasn't defended his belt, and that's one of the biggest things. Because we're talking about it, it's one of the biggest things said about Conor McGregor. So if they strip him and he wins, yes, he wins the title, but he hasn't defended his title. So maybe they're just keeping it open. And sure, look, boxing has fucking 170 belts, so why can't fucking MMA?
Yeah. No,
but I know. I'm obviously being sarcastic, but I consider the winner of this as the lightweight champion, simply because Conor McGregor doesn't have a match confirmed. Do you know what I mean? It'd be different if you had Conor McGregor matched or you knew he was coming back. Like, he's back training. If you guys follow him on social media, Twitter, Instagram, he's back training. Like, he's constantly putting up pictures out in SPG SPG Dublin 24, with Paddy Houlihan, and out in Concord as well, which is the headquarters of SPG Ireland. He is back there. He's putting up pictures regularly, so he is back in training. You never know, maybe he's defending his belt against Floyd Money Mayweather.
Good Lord Almighty.
Does McGregor Diaz happen before McGregor versus winner of Khabib Ferguson? I think it's a possibility.
Yeah,
I think because so. Like, Diaz is saying he wants to come back. I definitely don't think Diaz was saying he'd come back and save this card out of nowhere with not the intention to fight. I think the two of them want to finish that fight. So I definitely think 100% that fight will happen. And when is thing? It's April, isn't it?
Yeah, like, it wouldn't, like, the scenario that wouldn't surprise me. It's kind of surprised me in certain ways. Maybe surprised me that he'd come back this soon. But the scenario that wouldn't surprise me would be Tony Ferguson could be fight for the interim, Conor come back, fight Nate, maybe defend the title or maybe non-title. I don't know. It probably doesn't matter in terms of really, you know, how popular the fight will be. And then the winner of, or Conor, if Conor wins that, fight the winner of Khabib, or at least say fight the winner of Khabib and Tony.
Rob, there is a title fight this weekend. Did you know that?
There is.
No fucking Jesus. Yoel Romero takes on Luke Rockhold in Australia, down under. This weekend, this Saturday. It's Saturday, isn't it? It is a Saturday card. Thank God. Them Sunday cards are awful. But Yoel Romero slated in because Robert Whittaker, horrendous staph infection that spread to his stomach and was eating away at his innards. But yeah, I think we have a great fight in the. Again, the silver lining from the black cloud of another fight falling out. We got Yoel Romero taking on Luke Rockhold. So, what do we think? Again, everyone in comments comment away. What do we think of this fight? Do we like it? And who do we see getting the hand raised and being crowned the latest interim middleweight champion?
Yeah, just on the whole question of do I like it, I think it's a brilliant fight. I think it's a great fight. Interim title, I guess. Is that what they're calling it? Calling it interim title, fair enough. Whatever with that one. But the fight itself is a great fight. It's a fight that probably could have happened a long time ago. Short notice for Yoel Romero, but I suppose the reason why I wouldn't read short notice for Rockhold as well, but the reason why I wouldn't read too much into that in terms of less time to prepare. They've probably been looking at each other for a long time at this point. They've been up there. They've been between 1 and 5 for the past couple of years now, so they've known that they'd probably run into each other at some point. I guess they've studied each other a little bit. At least they know a little bit about each other, so it's not like a huge surprise. But the fight itself is a brilliant fight. Brilliant fight.
I think it's mad, and I'm actually surprised. Luke is what people have said here. I think Yoel Romero here, guys. Like I think, his defeat to Robert Whittaker. I think Robert Whittaker is underestimated as a fighter, and I have been incredibly guilty of underestimating Robert Whittaker. I've been doing it like for as long as this podcast has been gone. I think I've picked against him every time, like it's ridiculous. But I'll get it right one day, But I just think Yoel Romero, again, some way as MMA fans, we're really, really fickle, and we forget how dominant and what he's done. Like, you look at, right, you can argue Chris Weidman. I'm a big Weidman man. You only have to watch our show. I tend to wear Weidman t-shirts a fair bit. But like that finish of Chris Weidman was ridiculous. Like, you know what I mean? He's a special. Like, this is the guy that if you were building a superhero, apart from maybe the voice with the okay, Jesus, apart from that, this is the superhero guy. And I just think he is. I think he'll learn from his defeat as well, and I think he'll use a lot more of. I just think he'll use a lot more of his brute strength, and I think he's going to manhandle Luke Rockhold. I really do. Really? I think he's going to manhandle, and like, no disrespect to Michael Bisping again, Bisping fan, but Bisping isn't the biggest puncher in the world, and he knocked out Rockhold as well. So I don't know. Again, Rockhold needs to use his reach, his length here, and keep Yoel Romero away from him. That's easier said than done. Like, as in, you're literally standing on a train track, and Yoel Romero is the express line going through you. So I'm Yoel Romero here, and I'd almost liken it to Yoel Romero to Khabib. What Khabib done to Johnson, or what Khabib done to Edson Barboza.
Which is weird, because like, Yoel Romero, for me, although he's a phenomenal wrestler, he obviously has incredible.
He doesn't use it.
He doesn't use it as much. He kind of reminds you a little bit, and this is, I'm not being racist here, he kind of reminds you a little bit of a Tyron Woodley type, where he's the big, stocky guy with incredible wrestling, but doesn't really use it. He uses the wrestling only in certain situations. He'll capitalize on it. He'll look for takedowns, but it's not like that's his game. His game is generally weirdly like a counter fighter. He's a really slow starter, not slow as in you can hurt him really quickly or really early. He's slow starter as in he'll like to feel out his opponent on the feet really early, similar to Luke Rockhold. But I think with Luke Rockhold, I think he gets into a groove a little bit quicker than Yoel Romero. Yoel can kind of give away early rounds. You've seen the fight with Chris Weidman. I thought he lost the first round. I thought he was probably losing the second round. Obviously we know what happened later in the fight. But he's that guy who will sit back. He'll try to dominate the centre, but he'll sit back and he'll allow the guy to get almost a false sense of security in ways. And then he'll explode with the big shots like a Tyron Woodley. He'll come forward, land maybe 2-3 big shots on the guy, or try counter him. And I think the reason why he probably does that is because of his size. Maybe he doesn't think he can put on a high pace for 3 to 5 rounds, depending on if it's a title fight or not. Maybe he doesn't think that he can keep up the kind of pace that maybe he looks like he'd be able to, as in he looks like he's a grinder, which is not really that much. So I think the early stages would be very, very interesting to see how both of them are set, because Luke Rockhold, as I said, much similar to Romero likes to find his range early, and I believe they're both southpaws as well.
I don't know, man. I just have a feeling that he's just going to come out and be an absolute beast, like an absolute beast, and he has that potential. I just think. I don't know. I just think the defeat, he was close. He was calling out Bisping. It looked like he was going to get the Bisping fight. And I think I referred to the Bisping fight would be the scene in Avengers where the Incredible Hulk grabs a hold of Loki and just like threw him around like that. And I don't know. I just see an explosive, dynamic Joel Romero coming out here.
In what way? Do you think he's going to look for takedowns, or do you think he's going to drop them? Because Luke Rockhold traditionally has been pretty hard to take down, and on the ground, especially if Luke Rockhold can get on top, I think Luke Rockhold dominates Yoel Romero from the top, unless it happens in the first round. I think if it gets to the second or third round and Luke Rockhold can get on top, I think Luke Rockhold smashes him from the top. Luke Rockhold's top game is absolutely legit.
Yeah.
I honestly think his top game is probably better than his striking game, even though he's kind of known as a striker. I think him on top is better than his actual striking game, and he also has a really good positional game on top where he likes to get position, land big shots, takes the back really well, and when he takes the back, he'll look for chokes. He'll like what he done to David Branch, where he completely flattened him out and landed huge shots from the top. Yoel Romero is kind of content if he gets you down. He's kind of content to land shots from the guard. He won't try pass a whole lot. And the only fight that I remember seeing him off his back, I was looking into it today because I was like, what's the Yoel Romero like off his back? Was against Derek Brunson. And Derek Brunson passed his guard really, really easily. And Yoel Romero got back to his feet eventually, but I think if Luke Rockhold can get on top, I think he hurts him. I really do.
I don't know. I just see Yoel. I just don't see him getting denied here. He's just so explosive, and I get what you were saying. You racist pig with Tyron Woodley.
Sorry, Will.
And
racist.
He sort of has that explosiveness in him, and I don't know. I just think, like, don't get me wrong. It was a beautiful counter by Bisping that caught Rockhold. Beautiful counter. But I don't know. I just think Yoel Romero carries a lot more power, a lot more explosive in both takedowns, kicks, flying knees, everything. I don't know. For me here, if someone said to me, here, I have £100, who will I back? I'd be like Yoel Romero.
Yeah.
Just fancy him. I just think he's going to win it. Your co-main event.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on. Oh yeah. I thought you did already.
Yeah, I'm going with Luke Rockhold. I understand what you're saying though. I think if Luke Rockhold shows up like the early David Branch, Luke Rockhold early in the rounds where he looked a little bit vulnerable on the feet at times. I thought Dave Branch landed some good shots. I think Yoel could do it as well. But I don't know. Over 5 rounds, I just think Luke Rockhold can get it done. I'm gonna go with Luke Rockhold.
Even though Yoel hung in there with Whittaker for 5 rounds?
Yeah, no, I do. I think he's going to somehow get it to the floor, maybe drop him. He has a nice little slide back check hook that he throws, maybe off balance him or something. But, I don't know. I think he has to get him to the ground at some stage, so I don't know.
Your co-main event is the big boys, Mark Hunt. Taking on Curtis Blades. This is a big fight for Blades. Like it's an excellent fight from when you look at it. Like and again you look at Mark Hunt. There's a lot of talk about Derek the Beast Lewis. Mark Hunt goes in there and gets him, and Mark Hunt has sort of been on the win a couple, lose a couple, win a couple, lose a couple. And if we go down that route, he's due a win. It sounds absolutely ridiculous, but he beat Antonio Silva, draw with Silva, beat Roy Nelson, lost for Doom, lost Steve Bay, beat Antonio Silva, beat Frank Mir, lost to Brock, lost to Alistair, beat Derek Lewis, so he's going to beat Curtis Blades. But a big fight for Curtis Blades. If you look at Curtis Blades' only defeat is to Francis Ngannou.
Yeah, that's true. Curtis Blades is very good. He's a good grappler, and that's where I think he's going to look to bring the fight. He's going to look to try to get Mark Hunt to the floor, which is easier said than done these days. It
really is these days. Yeah.
Even at Mark Hunt's kind of advanced age, I think he's got a much better at defending takedowns. I think you can argue that his chin is getting a little bit worse, but even then, he's taken some big shots from a lot of guys. He's been, he used to not be able to finish him. He used to land any shot you wanted on him and it'd stay in there. So Curtis Blades has that there. He's just not that big of a puncher, as in he's a big puncher because he's a heavyweight, but he's not that technical. He's very rudimentary in his striking of sorts. Curtis Blades, he likes to get the takedown. So this
falls into the hands of Hunt then in that case, doesn't it?
Yeah, like I don't know. I'm gonna go with Mark Hunt. You know, I could be surprised there with this one. I'm just gonna go with Mark Hunt. I think he's just striking wise, he's too polished. Curtis Blades, when he strikes, you can see that he's not that used to striking. You can see it in his striking. I just think Mark Hunt will be able to capitalize on that, and especially a heavyweight when it only takes 1 or 2 shots to really hurt the guy. I'm gonna go with Mark Hunt, but you know, who knows?
Yeah, I got it. Like looking at Blades it's the real. It's weird. We were talking about this a while ago, actually. We were talking about it actually with Francis Ngannou. I think that MMA has sort of gone back to older times where it's like the striker against the wrestler, or you know what I mean. It's gone that way, and this is a classic striker v grappler.
Yeah.
But I just think with Blades coming in the way he does, it plays into Mark Hunt's hands. Mark Hunt has got that one shot power that just turns the lights off, and I think that's what we're going to see on Saturday night. Hunt he's a lot harder. Like I remember Mark Hunt in his early UFC days, like the cage door would get closed and Mark Hunt would nearly end up on his back. Just
yeah, you remember he was beaten by Sean McCorkle.
Yeah,
Sean McCorkle. He was arm triangle. I know he was Conor, I think, by Sean McCorkle. Yeah.
But yeah, he was easily taken down. And geez, when you look like Gegard Mousasi and everything, that's mad. Back in Dream. Wow. He lost to Melvin Manoff after 18 seconds of round number 1 and Fields Dynamite in 2018. Yeah, but basically, Hunt is like a fine wine. Yeah. He's aged a lot better in his MMA skills. And by skills, I mean stopping the takedown. The game plan used to be go and get him taken down.
I love the discussion here in the chat. Where is it there? Will Dugdale, crazy that Hunt is 43 or something. Sore Mr. Beck, that's only 25 in Super Simone years.
But it is, in fairness to him, how long more will Mark Hunt be around? Who knows? But this technically could be a swan song, you know. And the UFC's had a lot of problems with them, against guys testing positive after him. So you like to see Mark Hunt get the victory here, surely. And I think that's going to happen. And I think we could have another Shadow Realm victor, victim, I should say. Get onto Barry Keegan and get him drawn up. Curtis Blades walking into the Shadow Realm and being greeted by Mark Hunt.
You would say though that a win for Curtis Blades would be probably good for the division in a way. Another contender there, but yeah, I'm going with Mark Hunt in this one as well.
Really, contender at heavyweight, it's not a great division, really, is it? Like, as in outside of the top, the top few. I'm just gonna randomly look down the card here. Ross Pearson, he's due a win, isn't he? Ross Pearson. Yes. Didn't even know he was on the card. I didn't even know he was on the card until I scrolled down. Oh, Jesus, Ross Pearson. He's the third fight in, like.
Yeah. Ross Pearson.
Did he headline UFC Australia before?
Yeah, there was an Australian card where I'm pretty sure he headlined. Yeah.
It's crazy to think, isn't it? If that's maybe it was probably the Ultimate Fighter or something, was it back in the? Yeah. If only there was a way of finding out. Yeah,
it's he fights Hirota, isn't it? Hirota, let me just get this here. Yeah, he's in dire need of a win. What's he on? Four losses in a row. Well, but he's fought some good guys, I suppose. When you look at the guys he's fought, Will Brooks, Jorge Masvidal, Stevie Ray, and Dan Hooker. 4 good guys, but he's definitely in need of a win. Hirota is definitely a guy who he can beat. Hirota is like kind of a good all-rounder. But not really great anywhere. I think Hirota will stand and strike with him. So I'd probably give Ross Pearson's hands, Ross Pearson a little bit of an edge there. Although Ross Pearson back in the day, I wouldn't say back in the day, but a couple of years ago, he was kind of that surprise guy who came up and that left hook was huge. But it seems like over the last couple of years, people have figured that out, and he hasn't really been landing his best shot. And when he's not landing his best shot, he's not really winning the fight. I'm gonna just go out on a limb. I'll say Ross Pearson, even though I'm not confident about it. I just think he's probably a better striker, and I think Hirota will strike with him for the most part. But
it's just, I'm looking at it, isn't it mad to think that if you went on a 2-fight loss in the UFC not too long ago, that was nearly days numbered, and now like 4 fights. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't want to see the man lose his livelihood or his job like the UFC, but it's crazy to think when you look there at Ross Pearson's record. Stevie Ray is somebody he lost to not too long ago, and Stevie Ray just lost to Paul Felder and hasn't been offered a new contract back in like July. So it's crazy to think that, you know, he's beat Pearson, he's beat Joe Lozon. We could argue Joe Lozon is past his prime as well. I don't think you'd have to argue too hard there. And then lost to Paul Felder, but he can't. He's not getting a contract. But there's Ross Pearson. Is it because he won the Ultimate? Was that Smashes? No, it wasn't Smashes. He won one of them though, wasn't it? Your favourite subject, Rob, the Ultimate Fighter.
Don't ask me. I don't know. Yeah, it's a weird one. They like guys who are, you know, exciting fighters, and you know Ross Pearson is a pretty exciting fighter. Fight that I love on the card is the Tui Tuivasa against Cyril Asker. Although I think personally this is kind of similar to, maybe I'm probably being a little bit harsh to Asker, who's pretty decent, but I think it's kind of a fight that Tuivasa is being given because it might be a favourable matchup for him. I think Tuivasa's debut was really, really impressive, and if you look at that fight, the way he finished, I'm missing his opponent, but the way he finished his opponent up against the cage, we've seen a lot of that. If you look at his highlights, he does a similar thing. He kind of has that bulldozing style where he'll land big shots and push the guy up against the cage, and then he has lovely elbows up against the cage, lands big shots. And then I looked into his past. That sounds like I'm trying to solve a crime or something, but I looked into his background, I should say, and he comes from a rugby league background, which makes complete sense the way he fights. He's kind of bulldozes people and really, really aggressive. He's a big guy. I remember seeing pictures of him when he was like really overweight. Now he has that kind of heavyweight guy who doesn't look completely in shape, but he has a great gas tank, that kind of body type. But he looks like a really good prospect. Asker is small for the division. I think, you know, weight wise, they're going to be probably about 20 pounds in the difference. But their frames in terms of like height and stuff will be similar. But he just doesn't have that kind of heavyweight frame, that thick legged heavyweight frame that Tuivasa has. And I just think that he doesn't really have a lot of power. Tuivasa is very, very aggressive, whereas Asker likes to kind of strike behind a jab and be kind of technical that way, and he likes to get takedowns. I just don't think that's going to happen for him. I think Tuivasa might get an early finish.
I presume this is early, the fact it's in Australia this weekend, is it? We're going to get an early card? I know Australia can be late, isn't it? Oh, okay. Yeah, again, it's like it's not a card of stars, really, isn't it? They really lost a lot of steam, I think, when Whittaker was taken off the card, but I think they've replaced it well with Yoel and Luke Rockhold. Hopefully Whittaker, I seen he was on the MMA Hour today. I didn't see what he was saying. I think he was just speaking a little bit about the injury, so hopefully he gets back and is back soon, defending his newly crowned title. But UFC 221.
Yeah, there was a question there in the chat about Tyson Pedro, and I'll make a comment on that one. Tyson Pedro, I've been very wrong about Tyson Pedro over the last couple of fights. Although I did pick Ilyar against him, but I thought Paul Craig might have been able to beat him. I thought Roundtree could have maybe beat him, but he's looking like a decent prospect. I don't know how far he's going to get. I think we saw a lot of his kind of vulnerabilities against Latifi, but Latifi's a veteran. Like if you look at Latifi's record, he's fought a lot of good guys and he's very experienced. Where that was Pedro's 6th fight. So he has a tough fight ahead of him against this Russian guy, and we know how good the Russians can be. So
don't mess with the fucking Russians, I swear to God.
Mess with the Russians, but yeah, I think he looks like a pretty decent prospect.
I think that about sums it up, Rob. Unless there's anything else or any burning questions in chat that wants to be talked
I'll
about.
point out a couple more fights because there's actually some decent fights. Alexander Volkanovski against Jeremy Kennedy. Volkanovski's another good prospect from New
Kennedy's
Zealand.
that unbeaten Canadian, isn't
Canadian guy, yeah. That's a well-matched fight. Ben Nguyen against Formiga. I don't know why that's not on the main card, personally. That's an important fight in the flyweight division. Number 9 versus number 5.
That Chinese guy that won in the last China card is fighting as well. And Ji Ling Li or Ling Ying Li. I can't remember what way it is. It's one or the other way. Ji Ling
Li or something like that. He fights Jake Matthews. Jake Matthews is another kind of guy you should be keeping an eye on. Another fight on the card I like is Rob Wilkinson against Israel Adesanya. And look at Israel Adesanya. He is a kickboxer, a former kickboxer, or maybe he's still active. I'm not sure. He's fighting MMA the last couple of years. He's 11-0 in MMA, undefeated. And he is, I think he's ranked like number 8 in his weight class in pro kickboxing. He's an absolute beast. I haven't seen a whole lot of him in MMA. I've watched clips, but it's kind of hard to find because it's more regional stuff. It's his UFC debut. But if he has takedown defense, it should be exciting.
Oh, he's fought in WLF. That's the Chinese show. That was over here, Rob. Remember WLF were over here? But it was kickboxing they done. Yeah, it was kickboxing, not the M of the A. Is there anything else you want to cover? Any other topics or news? Nothing. Just looking there, breaking wise, nothing really breaking.
Check Reddit there. But thanks, Will. Appreciate that. WL Rockhold will land brutal kicks to the body, make y'all uncomfortable on the feet.
Oh, actually, sorry. Before you say it, Jimmy Smith's bowing he's making his first commentary this week. What do we think?
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. Should be interesting. I like Jimmy Smith. Big fan of him. We might as well just say it now. He's going to be on the show soon. In the next couple of weeks. Hopefully next week. Maybe not.
Hopefully Monday, but it depends on his travel.
Exactly. I don't know if he's traveling. So if you're not subscribe now. Fucking subscription hard. But just so everyone knows, we record a show every Monday and it's released every Tuesday, and then we'll do these live chats a bit more often. But Jimmy Smith should be on soon.
We just got put a thumbs down.
Who did it? Tell me.
Come on, lads, own up. Who done it? We always get one. No matter if we have episodes that just do an average number, a couple of 100, 300, 400, 500. Then we have shows that'll do 35,000, 203,000 or whatever. There's always one thumb down. Yeah. So always that one guy who tunes in. Obviously, Fight Talk's up again. Downgrade that.
There was a question there.
CM Punk. Oh, here we go. I think Floyd beats CM Punk. From what I've seen of CM Punk, Floyd beats him.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like, what's CM Punk gonna do? Is he gonna rush in and do an ankle pick like Randy Couture done to James Toney? No, he's not. Floyd murks him. Like, his footwork would be too good. He'd get out of range. Absolutely. Like, if Floyd, like, I honestly think, like, there's top amateurs here, and I'm sure you guys, I know obviously, Manchester's great MMA scene in Manchester, same with London, same with obviously Nevada there, guys, where he's from, and Glasgow as well. There's
a good MMA scene in Nevada? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's pretty decent. They have a couple of venues, they're only small, but like, you take an experienced amateur, yeah, he beats Floyd, I think, because he has the range of an MMA fighter.
Yeah, like, I definitely think so.
He's years of MMA training, yes, but did you see his fight? Yeah. Like, did he show at me of 3 years? If I done anything for 3 years and I looked that bad at it, I would be disgusted at myself.
Moving on. A quick one before we leave. Where would you visit in the States if you could? Have you been to the States?
No, I've been in their northern France.
Canada.
Been in Canada. Canadian, eh?
Where were you?
I was in Toronto, eh?
Very nice.
Just outside of Toronto in a place called I believe, but mainly in Toronto. If I could go to America, I would be the tourist, and I'd go to Disney. No, I wouldn't. I would go to Vegas to catch a UFC.
Yeah, I was...
or New York to catch a UFC.
Yeah, for me, I'd go to New York. I've been to Vegas, and when I was younger, I was in Florida for Disneyland. But I went to Vegas for a fight, so I'd love to do that again. But I'd like to go to New York, or maybe like Philly or something. Big fan of It's Always Sunny.
Such a weirdo. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. You need to get your shit over there. I'm afraid to go over in case like some fucking North Korean guy happens to nuke you because you're president when we're over there. I don't know. No, it's just, oh god, man, Trump. Speaking of that, totally off subject. Have you watched David Letterman introduce my next guest with Barack Obama?
I have watched it. Yeah.
Excellent.
Good show.
Excellent
I like
watch.
it. The next one is who? I seen it. Who was the next
Clooney,
one?
isn't it?
Clooney, yeah, George Clooney. Yeah.
A bit of a drop down, isn't it, from Barack Obama to George Clooney?
Yeah, although Clooney's very famous, but he ruined Batman, so
Was he the worst Batman? Do you think he was the worst Batman?
Absolutely. Yeah, he was terrible. He was awful. His suit had nipples.
That's not his fault.
That's very true. But he could at least vetoed it. He could at least said, "Here, what's the story with these nipples on this suit?"
Yeah. This this chat has really gone off the rails. Yeah. Black Guy Production. If you were to come to Ireland, what part of Ireland would you come to?
No Google.
No Google. It's literally like, or what part of America would you recommend? That's not, I don't know what.
I guess that's to Batman, definitely. What's your while we're on the Batman talk, obviously Batman talk.
Don't like Batman.
Yeah. What's your favorite Batman, Noel? You're an older gentleman, so you're probably gonna go with Adam West.
Adam West was a good Batman now, in fairness.
He
like,
was,
you know what I mean?
Nipple game.
See, you want to say Christian Bale, but I got to the stage with Christian Bale where his voice got really and it got really like. Have you ever watched that Bad Batman? Is that what it's called? Bad Batman?
I don't know.
It's like a mock thing, and it's Batman. It's just them taking the piss out of Batman. So hilarious. What's the other guy's name? Oh shit, his name has left me. He was in Birdman. He was a good
Michael Keaton. Yeah, Michael Keaton was great. It's either Michael Keaton or Christian Bale. Although I like Batfleck. I think Batfleck is good. The movies aren't great, but Batfleck is decent.
I didn't like the suit.
Why? Too bulky?
Yeah, too bulky.
Yeah.
And while we're on it, Batman's not a superhero. He's just a rich millionaire that's got skills. Superheroes
you have to have powers.
Yeah, you gotta have powers. Now I love Batman, absolutely. Who's your favourite Joker? This is really going weird. Yeah. Who's your favourite Joker?
Heath Ledger, come on.
Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
Jack coked out his tits doesn't do it for you, know?
No. What's the one from the TV show from Adam West? Something Romero? What?
Yeah, do you know who's
Cesar Romero? Sorry.
Do you know who's a fantastic Joker?
Who?
Mark Hamill.
Yes, very good. Yeah.
Brilliant Joker.
Yeah, very, very good. Yeah,
brilliant.
There's been some good Jokers. There's been arguably more good Jokers than there has been Batmans. I don't know what's happening with this podcast, but fuck it.
We done this a lot. This is quite funny that we done this. We're saying talking Batman. If Batman was in the cage, because we had, what was the guy's name that was in that nerd movie you like, Harry Potter? What was that guy's name?
What?
Remember ages ago we had the guy on. He was in Harry Potter on the show.
Oh yeah. Oh shit.
And at the end, I want to say Adam, was it? At the end of our interview, so this guy basically, he was like the bully in Harry Potter.
He was Crab or Goyle from Harry Potter. One of them.
I've never watched Harry Potter, so that's fine. But we went through the whole interview, and he made his MMA debut and won convincingly. Looked very good in there. So we fought very well. It was on Brad Pickett's show, Rise of Champions, which calls ROC, and then basically we interviewed him, and at the end of the interview we said, right, who'd win in a fight, and we gave him all alternative superheroes against supervillains and stuff like that. It was quite fun. It's almost like what we've got to hear, but I don't know.
Getting some good this cast is amazing. We should definitely do obviously Shy Talk.
Yeah,
this is the running gag.
This is a WhatsApp group that we're in, and we call it obviously Shy Talk. So yeah, we're definitely hitting that now. Yeah. I suppose it's time to go. It's time to say goodnight. It's late here in Ireland. It's same time it is in England, guys. This has been obviously Fight Talk live chat with Rob there. That's Rob, the good looking one. I'm the guy with the headset on, Noel. Hit subscribe down below for all our old stuff. Loads of really good interviews there as well, folks. If you look back, the likes of Buffer recently, we had Big George Foreman on not too long ago, and we have the likes of your Darren Till, your Aljamain Sterling. We've had plenty of good interviews coming up over the next few weeks. We've got some good ones lined up too. Some guys that are due fights. Their fights are coming up in a couple of weeks' time. We'll be speaking to them ahead of their fights. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back in studio next week. But if you aren't subscribed, so subscribe now. Thanks for listening. Thanks for interacting and having a bit of a chat. Sorry we went a little bit mad. And I want to go to Hawaii because the Anthony Madera said I can stay in his gaff if I ever go there.
Yeah, it is what it is. The end of
Google
the
it. As Eddie Bravo would say, Google it. But sound. Thanks a million, guys. Pleasure interacting with you. Go check out the Schaub McConnor. Yeah, McConnor. Great stuff. It always happens. Everyone starts talking at the end. We always answer the questions. McConnor was definitely that, or Eric Kelly, Condom. He was calling him, wasn't he?
Yeah, that wasn't. To be honest, Eric Kelly was hilarious, but I will say the Condom McGregor wasn't the cleverest. I prefer some of the other things, like he insulted us a few times, which was kind of funny.
Which one he used? That Backstreet motherfucker. Yeah, brilliant. Right, well, Rob, pleasure. See you in the morning for a coffee on the way to work. And lads, thanks again for tuning in. Thanks for all the questions. And we're going to do this more regularly. These little ones at home, we'll have a little bit more structure to them too. But we're only getting started on live chats. But when you check out the show, it's real professional. Sky Sports News isn't on in the background, and you're not seeing Rob. Are you getting sponsorship for that whey and your protein in the background?
No, I'm not. I wish I was. If anyone's listening from here, give me some. It's getting low.
Cool. We'll be back in studio next Monday. Show available on Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in. Good night.